A 6-year-old boy vanished on his way to school. 6 days later, his body was found in the woods, mutilated, ritualized, and left without answers. What followed was one of the darkest and most controversial investigations in Brazil's history, involving a political family, secret recordings, and confessions made under torture. For years, the truth was hidden, until now. Garatuba, southern Brazil, April 6, 1992. It was a quiet coastal town. Families knew each other. Children played in the streets. And then, one child didn't come home. His name was Evandro Ramos Caetano. He was 6 years old. That morning, he left home wearing his school uniform, a white t-shirt and dark blue pants, to attend class just a few blocks away. But Evandro never arrived at school and never came back. At first, it was just fear. Then came the panic. The community organized search parties. Local radio stations broadcast his name. Flyers were printed and posted around town. And the military police was called in. But no one found anything. Not a backpack. Not a single shoe. Not a trace of clothing. It was as if Evandro had vanished into the fog that blankets the coast every morning. This disappearance was documented in police reports, later obtained and analyzed in the investigative podcast Projeto Humanos by journalist Ivan Mizanzuk, who would spend years uncovering the truth behind what happened. For 6 days, Garatuba lived in silence and tension. Then, on April 11th, 2 electricians working in a forested area near a hilltop called the police. They had seen something strange among the bushes. When officers arrived, they found the body of a child. According to the official forensic report from the Instituto Medico Legal, the body was brutally mutilated. The hands and feet were missing. The eyes had been removed. The abdomen was open. Internal organs were gone. The boy was nearly naked, wearing only a torn piece of his school shirt. The scene was so disturbing that some police officers refused to speak publicly about it. But one thing was clear. This wasn't a typical homicide. Soon, a single word began to spread. Ritual. Whispers of black magic. Sacrifice. Dark ceremonies. The media picked it up. Headlines asked if Garatuba had become the center of a satanic cult. And with that, public pressure began to mount. 2 months later, in June 1992, the police made a shocking move. 7 people were arrested, all connected to the Abag family, one of the most powerful in town. Among them, Celia Abag, wife of the former mayor Beatriz Abag, her daughter. A spiritual leader named Davi dos Santos Soares, and 4 men allegedly linked to occult practices. The accusation? That they had murdered Evandro in a ritualistic sacrifice to gain protection and power. But here's where the case turns darker. According to the police, several of the suspects confessed. They described the ritual. They said Evandro had been chosen. They gave detailed accounts of the mutilation. And they signed written confessions. At first glance, the case looked solved. But something was off. Defense lawyers began to notice problems. Some details in the confessions didn't match the autopsy. The timeline contradicted known facts. And the wording of the confessions was nearly identical, even across different suspects. Years later, journalist Ivan Mizanzuk would access the original audio recordings of the interrogations. In his podcast Projeto Humanos, he revealed that the confessions had likely been coached, not freely given. In one audio, an officer says, "That's not what you said earlier. Repeat what I told you." Then came the testimonies. Multiple suspects described severe torture during their detention. Electrocution, sleep deprivation beatings, solitary confinement for up to 23 days. These claims were later confirmed by the Parliamentary Inquiry Commission of Parana, which interviewed victims and officers involved. What once looked like a clear-cut case of ritual murder was now starting to look like something else entirely. By 1998, 6 years had passed since Evandro's death, and the case, still unresolved, returned to the spotlight in the form of a high-profile trial. Only one person stood accused, Beatrice Bag. The court hearings in Curitiba lasted almost 2 weeks. TV cameras surrounded the courthouse. More than 30 witnesses were called, and all eyes were on one woman. The prosecution repeated the original theory that Beatrice had led the ritual killing, but the defense struck back hard. They presented forensic inconsistencies, discredited the interrogation process, and showed that evidence had been tampered with or suppressed. Even the court transcripts showed jurors were visibly disturbed by what they heard. On the final day, Beatrice addressed the jury. "They broke me. They told me if I didn't confess, I'd never see my son again." That night, the jury deliberated, and the verdict came in, not guilty. Beatrice walked free. No one else was tried, and the case went cold again. Then, in 2018, a new wave of truth began. Ivan Mizanzuk launched a new season of Projeto Humanos, dedicated entirely to the Evandro case. With more than 40 episodes and access to never-before-heard audio, it became one of Brazil's most listened-to true crime series. In it, listeners could hear the original interrogations, the fear, the pressure, the manipulation. In one chilling moment, a suspect sobs, and the officer says, "Stop crying. Just write what we told you." The podcast led to national outcry. And in 2021, under pressure from the public, the Ministério Público do Paraná reopened the case. They reviewed the tapes. They confirmed torture had taken place. And they began investigating whether the suspects had been wrongfully accused. Yet, even after all this, no one has been convicted. No new suspects have been charged. And no new answers have come forward. Evandro's name is no longer just a case. It is a wound, a symbol of how fear, power, and silence can destroy a family and mislead a nation. His family still mourns. His town still divides. And the justice system that promised answers has yet to deliver any. If this story moved you, don't let it be forgotten again. Subscribe, leave a like, and tell us, do you believe the truth was ever told? Or was it buried forever?